Welcome back. To continue our discussion, looking at financial matters for businesses, joining me again is Robbie Brady. She's the Executive Business Consultant with Storehouse Financial, and Ann Lewis with the Davis Life Brokerage. Let's jump in. And you're a life account executive. Got it all. Yes, yes.
Yes.
Well, in our first segment, we talked a lot about new businesses and kind of helping them get started and the kinds of things that you can assist with and what they need to be aware of. Before we kind of move into existing businesses, I do want to talk about a business plan. Because many times people hear, well, if you want to go into business, you got to have a business plan.
Sure.
What is this business plan and how can you help us with it? Are there certain components? Do you help us with those components? Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, in regards to businesses and developing a plan, we don't necessarily help them structure that plan, but we can certainly give them a lot of feedback and introduction to some of that, and also perhaps other teams that they need to connect with to help them in that. And it really is very much a team effort. Whenever we connect with a business owner, our plan is to be with them for life. And so if we can sit there and help them through a number of different ins and outs of developing that business, even from the business plan, we'll match them with the people that they may want to if they don't already have those particular people in place. But the business plan, it's basically a roadmap. It's a guide to get them started, the direction they want to go with that business, and really helps them stop to think and define some of the parameters of that business. Because everybody, there's so many people that say, oh, I'd love to own my own business. But when it comes down to really doing that, there's a lot of thought, process, and strategy that needs to go into that, and that's what a business plan is all about.
Okay, and I'm going to switch to you in just a moment, Ann, but I do want to ask you too, because you talked about the person, you don't really necessarily develop a plan, but you'll help them. Let's say I'm a new entrepreneur and I don't even know where to start. I'm a new entrepreneur in my mind so far, and I want to actualize that. Can I come into Storehouse Financial and sit and talk with you about what do I need to do? What do I need to consider? How do I get myself started? Can you help me with that?
Absolutely. In fact, I highly recommend that because we already know a lot of the people, the team members in place that can help with a lot of that. Secondly, they can do pre-planning on a financial basis so that they know then they're not 5 years down the road and all of a sudden they're underfunded, they don't have the money. This way there's can be a planning process that's really legitimate in financing the business or helping them, and that gives them realistic expectations of where that business can go, how fast it can grow, and what they're going to need to get the funding from. So yes, definitely.
Now with you, Ann, in terms of components, because you talked about in our first segment, God forbid, the Mack truck where you get hit and you know you haven't certainly planned for certain kinds of things. So in this business plan, what kinds of things would you say people need to pay attention to? Tell me a little bit about the, you talked about the, like who's going to take over and tell me something about that so we can understand.
Well, one of the things that we do with a business, whether it's new or existing, is sit down and do a fact finder with the business owner. And through that fact finding, we find out their goals, what they want to accomplish, who's involved in the business, are there key people, who's going to take over the business whether they retire, exit, or die. And so in that process, the number one thing that gets overlooked is the value of the business. Because without the value of the business, you don't know how to set a buy-sell agreement, you don't know how to do the exit plan, you don't know how to do the estate plan. All those things are contingent on the value of the business. Well, a lot of people will say, well, I'll go to my accountant and he'll do a book value. There's a difference between book value and market value. And so you bring that to the attention of the business owner and you arrive at a business value, and everything else is centered around that.
Now let me ask this question, because you talked about two questions here, but here's the first one. You talked about who's going to take over that business. The person starting off, maybe unlike the one who is already in business, may wonder, well, does that have to be a partner? Do I have to have a partner? Can it be my children or grandchildren? I mean, who can it legitimately be?
Most small business owners are family businesses. Most of them. And with the idea that the second generation will take over the business. But that can't happen unless there's a business plan that helps that happen. And our job is to make sure all those things are in place, no matter when that business owner dies or passes away, that there'll be enough money for that other family member to come in and take over the business.
Okay, now when you talk about that, is the business plan from that perspective for people that are thinking, I want to get into business, but I'm not quite sure, is that like a will? It's what we think of in our personal
there's such
lives,
a thing.
like who's going to take over what, who's going to get what? Is that the concept?
it's the concept. There's a business will and there's a personal will.
Right.
A business will is a buy-sell agreement or a succession plan, and it's in writing and it's funded.
Okay.
Because no succession plan or buy-sell agreement's not worth the paper it's written on if it's not funded.
Okay. Okay. So that is that concept that we're getting to.
Yes.
Okay. Now you talked about value, the value of a business. Now someone who's been in business for a while may have a better sense of that. Someone entering to a business is like, well, I don't have any value yet. I haven't really made so much money. I haven't, but is there still some conceptual value?
Absolutely. There's several kinds of different ways to value. There's 4 accepted methods, but when you're starting a business, you've got maybe a building, maybe you've got inventory, maybe the expertise of the owner is of value.
Okay.
So you look at those different things and you arrive at a figure that if this person died today, what would be the loss? What would be the risk to the business? And so you try to insure against that loss. You hope it never happens, but it does.
Okay.
And so that's how you come up with a figure, even in a new business. Now, a more experienced business
Right.
or aged business will have, that accountant will have a pretty good idea what that business is worth, but maybe not the market value. The market value is one where the expertise of the owner and the accountant together, and then there's independent valuation companies that'll come in and value that business similar to other businesses like it.
Okay.
One that IRS will accept, because if IRS comes in and says, we don't agree with that value, we're going to put a value on it, and it goes to court, then you've got an unexpected expense that they weren't anticipating.
Okay. Well, let me ask this question, because you talked about assets, I mean inventory and things such as that, or even just the expertise of the business owner. And I'm going to throw this to Robbie as well.
Okay.
What about the individual who has a consulting business and they don't necessarily have inventory, you know, widgets, gadgets, things such as that? Does this apply to them in terms of coming into Storehouse Financial, kind of getting started or getting some assistance if they already are in a consulting business of what they need to do or where should they focus, and then the valuing part? Talk about that, and then Ann, you jump in as you need to.
Sure.
I would definitely, because really now the value sits completely with that consultant, and they're the ones that have all the knowledge, they have the experience, they may have the contacts, they have all of this that they are now consulting with someone or companies or whatever the consulting business is. So it's even more important that they have something there to ensure, because if something happens to them, now what's going to happen to their clientele? How are they going to continue on without this consulting service? So yes, definitely they need to continue, they need to seek out additional support, help, direction, or whatever from Storehouse, so that we can make sure then that they've got all of the bases covered to help their clientele as well.
Okay, and as you're saying, Ann, the value of that person's expertise, but what about the business will? Would that be the same concept, that buy and sell that you were talking about?
Absolutely.
I mean, in terms of, since I'm the only person, I'm the consultant, I mean, can I will this away, or, I mean, how does that work?
No, but let's say that you are a consultant and you have a unique expertise in an area, and the business depended on you, and you became the girl of a Mack truck.
Right.
How do we replace you with an individual like you? It takes money.
Right.
So the value of you is set, and this buy-sell agreement says, doctor, you're worth $1 million, your expertise. It would take us $1 million to replace you.
Okay.
You die. We have that million. We go out and find somebody just like you.
Okay.
And the business continues running.
Okay. And I can actually set up a will of individuals that I think
That's right.
should come into this consulting business if I'm no longer there.
What you would do is the buy-sell agreement would indicate to your heirs what you wanted,
Okay.
or your partner, or maybe a key person. For every business that is running, there's always somebody. It's either going to be sold, it's going to be willed to somebody, or it's going to be exited and done away with.
Okay.
You're going to exit the business somehow.
Some way, someday,
Somehow.
somehow. On that one, we'll take a quick break and come back and talk about a few other issues. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.